Welcome to the Center for Democracy and Technology's short training on ransomware in education. Ransomware attacks are a type of malware that lock legitimate users out of their own systems, holding the key to unlock the system for a monetary ransom. Schools have been a particular target for these kinds of attacks as the pandemic and remote learning have increased schools' reliance on their technology and consequently worsened the impact this particular type of attack will have on students. Let's consider some of those impacts that are particularly damaging for schools. Ransomware can keep kids out of class, particularly when those classes are remote and fully dependent on technology. Even if the attack doesn't bring a stop to classes, it can disrupt other critical systems, like managing enrollments, communication with the community, and things like payroll. Additionally, many ransomware attacks may also export the data to the attacker before locking it, meaning all the traditional concerns of a data breach may also apply. Finally, responding to these attacks can be expensive and time-consuming, pulling energy and resources away from other school operations. Fortunately, there are some steps schools can take ahead of time to limit the likelihood and potential impact of a ransomware attack. Let's start off talking about some prevention and preparation best practices. In the next few slides, we'll go into a bit more detail on how cybersecurity best practices can be useful for preventing ransomware, how to keep data and systems backed up, and how to communicate effectively during an attack. At the end of the day, ransomware has to find its way onto the school systems before it can do any damage, and cybersecurity best practices can help prevent that from happening. Keeping software up to date is a key cybersecurity practice because it ensures that the systems have the best protections against known vulnerabilities and attacks. Training staff is also a critical form of prevention, as many attacks rely on the humans who use the system, whether by sending phishing emails, stealing passwords, or some other form of user-based attack. Training staff on cybersecurity can make them less likely to behave as the attacker expects or hopes that they will, thus protecting the system. Finally, schools should also make use of the many tools designed to make cyber attacks harder, like multi-factor authentication, which reduces reliance on passwords, or password managers, which make it easier for users to select and use strong passwords. In addition to the cybersecurity practices we just discussed, backing up systems and data is one of the most important defenses against ransomware. The main leverage attackers have in ransomware attacks is that you don't have your data, and only the attacker can return it to you. Backups mean that you don't need them to restore your data to you, you can do it yourself. Not all backups are created equal, though, so it's important to take steps to make sure the backup is a robust and effective one. Off-site backups and air-gapped backups are both ways to protect the backup from different kinds of incidents. Physically off-site backups can help in the instance of things like flooding or fire, where a backup kept in the same place as the main system would be destroyed. An air-gapped backup is sort of the digital version of off-site. These backups are disconnected from the main system after they are written, so they won't be accessible to whatever malware later infects the main system. Another way to keep a backup from becoming infected is to use write once, read many, or worm drives. These drives can't be changed after they are written, meaning they can't be infected after the initial write. Another challenge of ransomware attacks is that they can disrupt communication channels like email or even phones, which can significantly hamper response and recovery. Rather than scrambling to figure out how to communicate during a crisis, schools should set up alternative channels ahead of time. Additionally, schools should test these channels regularly, both to make sure they are working as expected and to ensure that everyone who needs them knows how to access them when necessary. While ideally the preventative steps discussed above can help schools avoid an attack, it's never possible for a system to be completely secure. So schools should also take steps to minimize the impact in the event that they are hit by an attack. However a school chooses to back up their systems, Having a plan to restore from the backups is an important part of preparedness. For complex systems, the order in which different components are restored will matter, so the plan should include that ordering, as well as who is responsible for what steps. Schools should practice this plan regularly to ensure that it stays up to date and to make sure that everyone involved is comfortable and familiar with their roles. Schools should also test their backups to ensure that they are uncorrupted before trying to restore the system from them, since restoring from a corrupted backup can replicate or exacerbate the problems from the original attack. Communicating effectively is an important component of recovering from a ransomware attack, so having a communication plan in place ahead of time is critical. There are a couple key considerations for this plan. First, schools should consider who may need to be contacted and ensure that all of those folks are included in the plan. This may mean teachers and staff, vendors, students and families, as well as external organizations like law enforcement or information sharing and analysis centers that could help with responding to an attack. For communicating with families, it's important to make sure that the communications are fully accessible. So schools should think about things like what languages and formats the communications need to be in. And finally, schools should aim to communicate in a timely way, but they need to make sure the information is as accurate as possible first. That may mean communicating with internal stakeholders first, or even just being clear in external communications that more information will be coming once it is available. Thank you for participating in our training. We hope it has been a helpful resource in learning about ransomware attacks and how to prepare for them. If you want to dig further, we've included additional resources from CDT and other organizations that offer more information about ransomware. We've also included our contact information, so feel free to reach out with additional questions or suggestions on this training. Thank you again for joining us.